Ladies and gentlemen, he's the Vice President of Google Southeast Asia and India. And he's also responsible for sales and operations in the region. He's focused on expanding the internet ecosystem in the region, increasing adoption among consumers and businesses, and accelerating innovation. Southeast Asia and India, with over 2 billion consumers and 500 million internet users, is the fastest growing internet user base in the world. And today we have with us none other than the Managing Director of Google India, Rajan Anandan. Put your hands together as he comes on stage and shares with us that how to 100x your addressable market by focusing on digital. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Rajan Anandan.
Good morning, everyone. It's here. I want to start by thanking Kamal, who is absolutely and incredibly consistent. So at the last NASSCOM board meeting, he made many of us first take a video and you know, sort of, which I assume you see through the course of the day. And then he actually made this deal after you made the video, which was sort of the video to talk about this event, that if you did the video, then you have to show up. So the next thing I know, I get an email about 2 months ago that I have been confirmed as a speaker. So I think we have a terrific set of leaders who are really very, very focused on building out both your ecosystem here in the region, but also very focused on SMEs. You know, the topic for my talk is 100x now. As CP very articulately put it, you know, the small businesses or the SMEs that want to become large companies actually do become large companies, right? A lot of it has to do with ambition and vision. We talked about that. A lot of it has to do with building the right team. A lot of it has to do with being able to actually get the capital that you want. But if you're a technology company, a large part of it is, are you focused on the right mega trend, the mega technology wave, right? Because in many cases, there are many times you can either build a business that's got tremendous tailwind, or you can build a business that's got tremendous headwind. The latter is just much harder, right? I've been in the tech space for a really, really long time, both running businesses, investing in businesses. And if there's one thing you want to do, is you want to pick giant markets with lots of tailwind behind it. And Dave Jani in our opening talk also talked about that. So that's really what I'm going to talk about. What I'm going to talk about is what we think is the single most defining technology trend for the next 5 to 10 years around the world, right? And if you can actually leverage those set of technologies and build solutions, build products on those technologies, we actually think you're going to increase your odds of building a very large business. So let me start with this. How many of you recognize the image that's on the screen? Wow, only 2 of you? How many of you are actually in the tech space? How many of you are not in the technology industry? It's okay, just raise your hands so they actually know the audiences. Okay, there's a few of you. That's actually Mosaic, the first internet browser in 1993. It was the very first time where a regular user, I had just graduated from MIT, I was at grad school, where you could access the internet as a common user. But here's what most people don't realize. The internet was actually up and running for 30 years before that. What Mosaic did was it made the internet accessible for regular users. For grad students like myself, I don't know how, the few of you that raised your hands, I don't know what you were doing, but whatever you were doing, right? You could actually begin to access the internet. And the browser is really what started the internet revolution in the way that we know today. With the browser, starting with Mosaic, all of you remember Netscape, is when consumers all over the world, business all over the world, could start doing very simple things like checking sports scores, trying to find businesses around them all the way through the creation of new business models. In 1993, when Mosaic was launched, nobody, and I mean nobody, could have predicted the creation of Yahoo, the creation of Amazon, the creation of Google, the creation of Facebook, the creation of the Apple iPhone, the creation of WhatsApp, the creation of Flipkart, the creation of Ola. And it's only been 25 years. Nobody could have predicted what was going to happen on the internet. Now, the reason I talk about the browser and the internet in 1993 is because we believe that machine learning and AI more broadly is actually at pretty much the same place today where the internet was in 1993. Machine learning and AI has actually been around for 60 years. In fact, when I was doing my MIT in the early 1990s, I actually worked on neural networks. That was 25 years ago. So what has happened now is that machine learning and AI have got to a point where you can start doing real things with it. And that's actually a very, very important point, that you can actually start doing real things, whether it's products, making your business efficient, or transforming entirely new industries. But there's still this sort of perception that AI and ML is just for experts, right? You have to actually be a deep expert in AI and ML, be able to leverage AI and ML either in your own business, if you're building software products, or for your clients, if you're actually selling services or products to other companies. That was true when I was in grad school. That was actually true even 10 years ago. But the reality is, it's not. At Google, AI and ML is not about driverless cars, right? Driverless cars, ours being Waymo, was the first manifestation of an entirely end-to-end AI-driven product. Driverless cars launched, was built, was developed because of AI, right? Every single part of that car is driven by AI. But for Google, actually, that's really not what AI and ML is. Today, ML is core of every single product that we are building, every single product that we have. We have 7 products globally that have 1 billion users. And every single one of them has machine learning at its core. From the Chrome browser to Gmail to Translate. And this is very, very important, right? So it's no longer about just a set of DeepMind experts in your business that we have called DeepMind. Every single one of our engineers is now trained up in machine learning. And this is actually a very, very important point. Because every product that we have that in the internet space is now being redefined. And if you take an example of photos, Google Photos, I don't know how many of you remember this, but even if you go back 2 or 3 years, if you wanted to organize your photos, let's say your personal photos on your smartphone or your computer, it was just a mammoth task. But today, you can just find my photos with, type in sunsets, and boom, instantly you get all the photos that you have in your folder or in your app that actually have sunset in it. What's this? It's machine learning at work, at scale. It's image processing applied to it, right? This is just one example of the hundreds of things that we have in each one of our products that's actually making the usability of the products. And Sundar, who's our CEO, was very, very clear when he took over the company 2 years ago that machine learning is a core transformative way by which we're going to rethink every single one of our products. And 3 years later, what I can tell you, it's become a reality, right? Machine learning is at the core of what we're doing. What's important is it's not about Google and it's not about the large internet companies, right? What's important to keep in mind is that machine learning has been democratized the same way the browser democratized the internet. What do I mean by this? What I mean by this is you don't now need to be a deep expert in ML and AI to be able to build solutions, build products in AI. And this is very, very important because remember, over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you're going to see the next set of 100 billion, 500 billion, trillion companies that are going to get built, much like we saw after the advent of the browser on the consumer internet. The only thing we know today is we can't predict what those are. But if you're building a company today, the fact that ML has been democratized is really the tipping point that you should build on. Because we know for sure, over the next 10, 15, 20 years, we're going to see a large number of massive companies that will get built out around the world by leveraging machine learning. And the good thing is, you don't need to be a deep ML or AI expert. And as Google, we've made it our mission to democratize ML. Right? Look at our own machine learning platform, TensorFlow. We open sourced that a few years ago, and we launched Google Cloud Platform that basically makes it able for everyone to actually build on machine learning. Right? And this is really, really important. And it doesn't matter whether you're a small business trying to do X, Y, Z, or you're an IT company in services, or a software SaaS startup trying to build something. Machine learning now is for everyone. And just if you look at the cloud platform, I wanted to use this because, you know, if you're working on AI, you understand this, but if you're not, people aren't. Because I talk to too many companies that still too hard to do, right? If you're an application developer with zero understanding of ML, the reality today is you can actually use APIs that we have, whether it's speech, whether it's image recognition, and build some really amazing things. Actually, last week I met an Indian startup that's building an extraordinary security screening software, right, for enterprise, straight off using an API. It would have cost about $5 million 3 years ago to build the team of machine learning scientists to be able to do that. On the other end of the spectrum, if you're a data scientist, built models, right, the reality is today you can actually leverage platforms to train your models better, to make them much better, and actually scale them out. And the reality today is machine learning and AI are beginning to penetrate every industry in every part of the world. And this, we think, is very, very exciting. Because if you're a startup that wants to build something, if you're an SMB that's got a software product or space, if you actually figure out where this is going to go, we really do believe you can dramatically grow your business very, very quickly. Because it's 1993, internet and the browsers just been launched. What I want to do now is show you a video of Bloomberg. Right? You all know Bloomberg, and how they're using machine learning for a very, very specific application. And the one thing I can tell you before we run this video, there are 1 million of these use cases. And now I want you to imagine what you can do if you did this right. Let's run the video. I think the audio.
Also all over the world.
More and more news and information that was critical for financial markets was breaking in local language in other countries.
Within our news product, we aggregate news from hundreds of thousands of different sources and making that information available, accessible to our customers at a moment's notice in a language that they understand and that they can interpret was really critical for us.
Translation, an automated translation, could make that information accessible to a much broader universe. We deal and operate in 40 languages, more than 170 countries. We needed something that was much better and much wider and broader. So in contracting with Google and approaching them, we said, what is your product? What can translation do for us? And in this case, it was an existing product. It had easy connectivity. So our engineers were able to integrate it into our platform seamlessly.
We were able to actually see translation happening in real time. So it was a pretty seamless, pretty easy process. It's extremely important for our customers to be able to access information wherever they are. We decided that we wanted to add the ability for people across the world to see that news translated in the language that was most useful to them. We wanted to add the ability for people across the world to access hundreds of thousands of news stories a day in the language that was most useful to them. It just worked almost like magic.
going to see customers and see them using the product is really exciting. They're just like, that is fantastic.
That's an example to do what Bloomberg did using AI, right? Using the Translate API. Without machine learning, would have basically taken them a couple of thousand people. Essentially what they're doing now is taking every single financial news in every language all over the world and using machine learning to translate all of it into the language that the user wants. You want it in Japanese, give it to you in Japanese. You want it in English, you give it to you in English. You do it instantly without a single human being. Right? So it's just one of what's going to be thousands and millions of use cases that will be developed very, very quickly. And it's all up for grabs. Now, moving closer to home in India, we're seeing a large number of startups now, as well as some big companies, beginning to leverage machine learning and AI to build very, very interesting solutions. India is actually a great place both to build for India as well as to build for the world from India. As many of you know, we've got an incredibly vibrant, rapidly growing startup ecosystem. At last count, over 5,000 tech startups in India, and it's growing by leaps and bounds every single year. And what we are very encouraged to see is that now many of the new startups are beginning to either leverage AI and ML in very interesting ways for solutions that they're building, as well as a few of them are actually really breaking through, whether it's on deep learning or many of the aspects of the next generation of ML that we're going to see around the world. Now what I'd like to do is share with you two examples, both startups from India that are actually leveraging ML in very interesting ways, and some thought what you could do with your business or for your clients. How many of you have heard of Niramai? Show of hands. Niramai, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so Niramai is basically a very early stage Indian startup. They're focused on breast cancer. Breast cancer is the number one cancer for Indian females. And the survival rate in India from breast cancer is about 60%, which is actually very low. In the US and Australia, for instance, survival rate is north of 90%. And the reason that it's very low, the survival rate, is because of two reasons. One, lack of awareness, but also because we don't have the equipment to detect this very, very late stage. And what it's done in a very, very smart way is leverage machine learning and image processing or image recognition systems, as well as deep algorithms that build breast cancer detection to build a solution that is ultra low cost that can detect breast cancer at a very, very early stage, right? They're still an early stage company, but their clinical trials have now been approved by the world's best authorities on breast cancer, and it's going to become an incredibly interesting company, right? And here's a startup from India that is leveraging machine learning to solve, arguably, one of the biggest healthcare challenges that we have for women around the world, as well as in India. As Google, we've got a program called Launchpad, where we actually are now working and helping startups, ML and AI startups that are solving for India. And now let me run this next video. We'll have the founders of Niramai talk about what they're doing, as well as you'll hear a little bit about how the Launchpad program, especially for those of you that are building startups, is helping them or has helped them really scale up their ML-based solutions. Let's run the next video.
In our country, unfortunately, women do not come forward for a breast cancer screening till the time they can avoid it.
And hence we end up losing 50% of the women.
Mammography, which is one of the standards of care today, has very good ability to detect very small lumps called microcalcifications. However, it does not work on women under 45 years of age.
We have created a breast cancer screening solution such that we do not see the patient, touch the patient, radiate, pinch, inject, to the extent that during the screening we don't even see the person.
What we do is use a simple device like this to measure the heat distribution on the chest and use machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithms to detect the location of abnormality, all within 5 minutes.
The key challenge we were facing was the scale, both scaling of the technical architecture
as well as the business.
Launchpad focuses on supporting startups that are solving real problems using great technology. In the case of Niramai, you have a company that is solving a real problem on the ground. We have a set of great founders who are both technically competent and able to work on feedback provided to them.
Google program was really awesome. We got to meet several mentors from around the world and discussed.
You get the idea. Here's the thing I can tell you. There are today about 20 startups that are like Niramai, using ML and AI to solve healthcare problems that are very severe in India. And once they solve it, these are problems that can be solved for the world. But the reality is, we could actually have thousands of these kinds of companies that are solving very deep problems, that are very large problems. The other company I wanted to talk about a little bit was Freshworks. How many of you have heard of Freshworks? Okay, a few more hands go up. That's good. Freshworks is the first billion-dollar SaaS startup from India. They're based in Chennai. They were started in 2010. They have about 1,000 employees, and they have 150,000 global customers. They started off with a help desk support software. They've expanded into CRM, and now they've got a whole set of other products that they're building. Freshworks 360 is an integrated experience that they're creating that integrates all their different products, from help desk to marketing to sales automation, to create one seamless experience, right? And what's interesting is they are now leveraging AI and ML to dramatically improve the user experience that their SaaS products are actually delivering. Everything from chatbots that are automating the chat, so no longer do you need people to actually communicate with people, intelligent, automated email response systems, routing systems that decide which agent should actually get which call, all the way to sentiment analysis that actually determines both voice and text, that determines what the customer issue is about, what level of escalation that we need to do, etc. Right? So what we are now seeing in India is brand new companies like Niramai that are essentially AI and ML first, that are trying to solve existing companies that are up and running, that are leveraging AI and ML to dramatically improve the experience. So what does this really mean for all of you? I think what it really means is you have this incredible opportunity. The browser just launched on the internet. Over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you're going to have many trillions of dollars of economic value that's going to be created, right? So for those of you that are already working on AI and ML, that's fantastic. You should double down, triple down, quadruple down on it. And if you're not, the reality is it's democratized. ML now is for everyone. And what does that mean? You can leverage it. And what you really need is insight, John talked about. Insight about your users, insight about your customers, and what they really need. And what AI and ML can do, especially with the democratization of these platforms, is help you build and solve those problems. I wish all of you, as you end the next day tomorrow, you're here for 2 days, hopefully all of you, will go back with an ambition to 100x your business, ideally over the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you so much, Mr. Rajan. Can we have Mr. Kamal, sir, on stage? Thank you once again for giving us your valuable time.